So, I don't know if you can hear my audio. Hopefully you can. This is your host, Steve from the back, coming at you raw and unscripted once again. And, you know, this channel talks about a lot of things, but it definitely talks about cryptozoology. You know, it is kind of like a partially a cryptid rant channel. The whole idea of having like a podcast type of thing to me is a very kind of cool idea. It seems like a very fun idea, and also when you're on a podcast, you can kind of like interact with a person, and they can give their opinion on something, then you can, you know, give your opinion, and you know, you can share like stories and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to talk about something today. I wanted to talk about the aspect of how, you know, now we hear about like cryptid encounters and stuff like that, right? Obviously. But how am I trying to say this? You know, in some places there are, believe it or not, there are people who know that these things exist. There are people who, like, how do I say this? Park rangers, things like that, they have been given orders to basically hide this stuff. You know, hide these type of, the knowledge of these beings and encounters and stuff like that. But, you know, aside from that, you have to ask the question, like, you know, who can really, or can it even be, who can really police the activity of these, like, so-called cryptids, right? Now, I would say that, in my opinion, I really believe, this is kind of just my opinion, I kind of believe that these cryptids, I believe that these cryptids pretty much are just kind of minding their own business, honestly. But I also think that given the fact that they're on average way stronger than a person, way more adept to their environment, way more feral, if you will, like, I'll kind of elaborate on that. Now, there was an incident where a guy had claimed he had saw a creature where he had thought it was like a cat type of being, not even really a dog man, more of like a cat man almost, you know, describing it as having like a lemur's tail. And this being was just bounding at like incredible speeds at one point, like a damn cartoon character like Pepe Le Pew, just hopping and just bounding effortlessly like it was just nothing. And the thing that boggled my mind about this is that this creature was probably about, at least, just at least being generous, like at least 300 pounds. Okay, at least 300 pounds. We're talking height, and we're talking like solid, I hate to say it because it just sounds astronomical, but it's the truth. Solid muscle, just diced solid muscle, 300 pounds or more, just galloping and hopping like it is nothing, just across huge distances like a kangaroo, with like no effort. Like it seems like, you know, just like effortlessly bounding. Like you know, you see those I don't know what they're called, but there are these animals in Africa with horns. You know, they kind of look like a deer, and they just like they just hop like, you know, like a kangaroo. Like it's like it's nothing. It's almost like walking for them. So I'm like, oh man, you know, with something like that out there, nobody is, you know, it's kind of like if it wants to do anything to you forcefully, it's over, man. It's just over. For you, it's over. It is just over. So, you know, it's like, I know these things are smart like people. If some of them aren't smarter than us people, I know they're just as capable intellectually. Maybe they haven't been introduced with like technology like we have. Obviously, maybe. But I think that their intellect, they have the capacity to learn just like we do. You know, like if you were to teach them pretty much anything that we could comprehend, I think most of them can comprehend that, if not more. So it's just they don't have a need. They don't have a need for the stuff that we have. You know what I mean? They don't need to like live in little houses and boxes and use the internet and all. They don't, you know. it's crazy. And more power to them for that. But the thing is this, is the sheer power, it's crazy. When I think of it, well, it's like, us as human beings, how do I say this, we revere, like, warriors and things, and people who had incredible accomplishments, physical feats and stuff like that, and then, I'll really say, like, those beings to us seem like those are the real warriors. No, those are physically, those are like they're on like almost like I would say a demigod type of level. You know what I mean? Like it's just not even. It's insane. It's just insane. And then to think like they don't even need really certain types of technology and weapons because they're just that powerful. It's just retarded almost. Like, so what I'm saying is, with all that being said, they're not really trying to, I don't really believe, like, victimize people or really do things that are usually wrong. It's just that they're a predator and they're an animal, a very powerful animal in being, and they're out in the middle of, like, really weird, wild places that people usually don't go or they don't really, we can't sometimes, we really can't really live there, but they do. So, you know, I'm just saying that, like, think of it like this. You know, when people talk about, like, anarchy and chaos and stuff, I'll say, you know, the natural order of nature in the wild could be seemingly, like, chaotic or a form of anarchy in a way. But I would almost say, like, our civilization and us as people, or maybe even worse. You know, it's like, you give us some power, you give us the opportunity, there's no cameras around, that's really horrible, I'll just keep it real, horrible things tend to happen, and that's something I see, that's something I've heard of, that's something I've seen, it's just horrible, but, you know, what I'm basically saying is, like, it's just interesting. It's interesting how, you know, you have certain types of beings that are out there, and, you know, you just wonder sometimes, like, okay, well, what are they really, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, they have to be spending time out there. Obviously, it's where they live. You just wonder. You know what I mean? And I also would say, like, man, some of these cryptids, you know, like I said, you know, they are not, I wouldn't even call them, like, they're not hooligans, you know what I mean? They're really not, actually. They're more or less just, like, seem to be minding their own business, really, minding their own business, living out their days, and they encounter us occasionally, you know what I mean? Are they spooky and scary and odd and weird? Yeah, they are, but they are just really minding their own business for the most part, you know. And you can clearly tell, yes, there's mischievous deeds going on. Like, I'm not stupid either. I know that these creatures are evil sometimes, and they do really evil, horrible things to people sometimes. Like, I already know, you know. But for the most part, they're mostly just living here. You know what I mean? They're living here, man. So, you know, I often wonder, these cryptids, you know, it's actually an extremely fascinating, mysterious type of thing, because, you know, you wonder, like, do they also have Like, we know that they have, like, almost hyper, I mean, like, I don't know what to call it. It's like certain physiological differences between us and them that allow them to, like, maneuver, and now allow them to move, and allow them to accomplish feats that just for a human is just not possible. Due to, like, bone structure, bone density, muscle structure, and all this other stuff. Weird physiological differences that just, like I said, they're completely not human. It's just impossible for a person to accomplish these things because we don't have the same genetics, we just don't have the potential, we just are different. But I also wonder, like, when it comes to, like, spiritual abilities, things of that sort, things that, like, we really just can't even accomplish, you know what I mean? Like, phenomenon, like levitation, materializing, dematerializing, moving through solid matter, cloaking, infrasound, astral projection, remote viewing, all this crazy stuff. It makes you wonder, like, first off, like, you wonder what are some of these beings capable of already. You have to ask the question, like, what are they really even capable of? And it makes you wonder, why is such a primitive being, I'm only saying primitive because they're so, similar to the animals that it almost makes no sense, like, why something like that would have that type of ability. But who am I to say what makes sense in this world? You know what I mean? Things have a purpose for some reason. I don't really get it. I guess the fun in all of it is trying to figure out why and how. But I think that's what fascinates us all about cryptozoology anyway, is, like, the paranormal or extraterrestrials and things like that, because we just can't understand how or why or any of it. We're just, like, we may have a small glimpse of some things, but we always want, like, a bigger picture, and that's what makes it fun, that makes it fascinating. But, I have to ask the question, if these things are out here foraging, and they're eating, and they're, breeding, and they're hunting, and they're doing things, and maybe even some of them are, like, I don't know, they're traveling, they're traveling in crafts, they're like I said, materializing, there's a flash of light, and then all of a sudden this hulking thing walks out of somewhere. It's like, it's like, what I wonder is how us as people, trying to have encounters with these things, or trying to track them, or trying to learn about them, or whatever, how do we go about, my question is, how do we go about logically and methodically, what I'm trying to say, like, logically and methodically having a blueprint to, like, okay, we understand this thing eats, we understand it has to sleep, we understand it has to drink at some point, so maybe there's a high probability that if we place ourselves here, there, whatever, maybe we may have a sighting of one, maybe we could actually attract it, maybe we could use the animal call, maybe we could make some type of frequency of sound, something that we could, just like how we hunt anything else. But I don't, it seems like it's way more difficult than you would ever imagine. It seems like when people try to go out and they try to hunt these things for the sake of maybe just catching a picture or even just a glimpse or anything, it seems like it can be very, very, very difficult. And to me, that just adds another mystery, another layer of mystery to it. And it seems frustrating. I don't know. Me as a person, I've never went out with a team. I've never went out in a group. I've never went out and actually, like, tried to have an encounter with a cryptid, or try to possibly have an encounter, or maybe see if there are signs of activity. Or I've never done that. Now, I'm going to say in the future that is something that I want to do. That is something to where, even now I'm doing research here and there, trying to understand certain things, so I can, like, have somewhat of just a small idea of, like, just the simple basic things. Like, for instance, you're going to have to be camping, right? I don't drive, for instance. I don't drive. So, someone, obviously, I would have to be relying on someone that has to drive a vehicle. The person driving the vehicle should be sober, I would hope. You know, when you're in a vehicle, I mean, when you're going out into the woods, like, you'd have to be sober, you know what I mean? You know, just saying. Just kind of saying. I understand. I know people are watching and I think, Steve, what are you talking about? What, I've drive buzzed all the time. Like, I know what you're saying. But you know what I'm saying. Like, there's you know, there's things that go into this. Like, for instance, you know, I'm saying, like, you would have to understand that there's, like, things that could either hinder what you're trying to do or help what you're trying to do, and there's always methods implemented when you're trying to, like, do something like that, right? No matter how simple or how complex it is. So, you know, but it is something that in the future I would like to do, you know what I mean? But, like, I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to talk about what I was talking about before, about the mystery of all of this. You know, there's so much mystery to it, it's not even funny, you know what I mean? It's like, and I'm gonna speak on this, and this is gonna sound really, really weird, and some people are gonna say, oh, you're just pulling my leg, you're just saying this for attention, there's no way this could be real, you know, what are you talking about? But just hear me out, right? So, it really stuck out to me when I watched this video of this man talking about his encounter with this creature that had a striped tail. It was almost like a lemur, like a very long, crazy long tail. This thing is massive. This thing at least was 300 pounds, and I'm actually playing it down because this thing was probably more like 340 pounds, probably. This thing was straight up mass monster bodybuilder style, diced to the friggin' bone. You know, it almost makes no sense. It's like, why would you have that much muscle mass, that little fat, and you have a semi-quadrupedal body? You have a hunch in your back, like, you know, cheetah. You have a hump so your spine can curve, and when you stand up, the spine, you know, retracts back in, and next thing you know, the thing is on two legs like a person. It has arms similar to a man. It's just so crazy. It's like, what, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. When you think of it, it's like, what, how, you know, like, I get it, and I know these things are real, but it just always boggles me, like, how is this thing real? Why is it real? Why is it so big? You know what I mean? Like, you got this hulking thing that you can tell that this thing is running down, oh man, this thing is running down large animals and just overpowering them like it's nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, what is going on here? This is something out of a horror movie. This is something out of a comic book. This can't be, it's like, it can't be real. This cannot be real, man. It can't, but it is real. That's the thing. But I was born in 1988, and when I was born in 88, as I grew up, there were all types of sci-fi things out. There was all types of monster movies. Everything was new, this, alien, that. Everything was all. I mean, we didn't really talk too much about cryptids amongst ourselves, but really, I mean, it was like Cryptid City even on the TV. You know what I mean? And the funny thing was, one time I distinctly remember this because I was obsessed with the lemurs, right? I was a little bit afraid of them because there used to be the show where they would have like a lemur puppet, and then they would have a real lemur on some of the shots, and the thing had freaky eyes. If you ever seen a lemur's eyes, you know, they're kind of like yellow and they look real freaky, and it's just kind of, for a kid, it's a little off-putting for a kid because a kid maybe not used to be seeing something that looks like that. But as scared of it as I was very fascinated with it. And then sometimes I would draw pictures, but what I would do was, me being a very advanced intellectually in terms of creativity, like way further than I should have been as a child. I would draw these sketches and pictures of like animal mixtures, you know what I mean? Like I would mix like a Chihuahua dog with a lemur and a bat, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the one that stood out the most. And I drew this picture one time, and it was of a lemur mixed with a bat and a Chihuahua dog all at the same time. And, you know, obviously it had this distinctive tail and everything. And it wasn't like a hulking huge monster like this guy was talking about. But there's just the concept of something like that. I'm thinking like, it's funny because when I used to draw pictures when I was a kid, and like my parents, and especially my grandmother and mom, and when I say it's demonic, or you know, when they were growing up, they had clearly seen things. They had encounters with certain type of creatures, and they always deemed these creatures as demonic. You know, whenever they had an encounter with something. So, you know, it was kind of like a little frowned upon, a little like, it was kind of like, what are you doing drawing these things? These things are demonic. You know, how would you imagine something like that? So on and so forth, you know what I mean? But then, the funny thing is, I used to draw things like that all the time as a kid, and all the while, and you gotta consider, I was born in 1988, all the while, if I were to have grown up in a different area, not a city, if I was out in the middle of, you know, the brush and the wild, there's a possibility that I myself may have run into one of these type of things. Just easily, you know, minding my own business, just hanging out maybe with friends, camping, maybe grabbing firewood for someone or doing something, and who knows, and then, you know, encounter something like that. And man, the crazy thing is, me growing up, I don't know how to explain this, but I always knew, it was almost like I always just figured that these things were real. You know, when I was drawing things or I was watching things in movies, and like, it's so weird, but I have to explain this. Like, as a child, it never dawned on me that in actuality, these things were things that didn't exist in the real world. You know what I mean? Like, I always just figured, I probably never come, you know, obviously I've never come in contact with something like this, but I would know that if I go in the right place or the right time, then, you know, how could it not exist? That was always my mentality. Like, what's so impossible that can't exist? You know what I mean? Like, I was just a weird kid. You know, I literally used to sit around, and I'd be in my backyard, and like, I would daydream. Here we go with the motorcycles again. Jesus Christ. I would daydream that there was like goat men running around. You know what I mean? Like, it was like men that were somewhat like somewhat like rams, somewhat like a goat, you know, white fur, just kind of like running around. And as I got like older, sometimes I would just envision, and by that time when I got older, the internet, you know, was a thing, and like, I already had heard about the goat man and things like that, and I already knew what it was. I already knew that there are actual goat. I was like, oh, I get it. You know, I know that they exist. It wasn't a big deal. It's just that I would envision, like, before there was like the ground under my feet, before there was the concrete, the pipes, the sewer, before all this crap was here, I know there had to be some of these things just running around, you know what I mean? Because it couldn't, there's no way that it could have just always been this, you know, us human beings as we are, with our little civilization and, you know, the size store down the block, and I know it was there. There were dinosaurs, there were extraterrestrials, there were goat people walking around, there were serpent people, there were all of this stuff there. And I swear, I even go as far to say this, is that sometimes if I'm calm enough, or if I'm in the right state or something, I feel as though I can almost connect back to where that source is. You know what I mean? If that, as weird as it sounds, I can almost. What I'm trying to say is I know that when certain things died, even though they died, their spirit or soul or whatever still lives on. You get what I'm saying, right? Like when we die, we have ghosts, we have spirits that have certain attributes and certain habits and certain like personality traits and stuff. These things do too, man. When they die, some people say that like some of them don't have souls or whatever. Maybe so, but I really don't think that for the most part. There's things out here. What I'm saying is there are detached bodies, like detached from their body. Things out here that were never human. You know, they weren't ever human. You know, and there's a certain power, there's a certain essence of them that would boggle a person's mind. You know what I mean? There's a certain like a certain weight to them, a heavy. It's like a heavy weight it's such an experience that like it's crushing to some, not to all, but to some human psyche it is crushing. It's just weird. It doesn't necessarily mean positive or negative, but it's just like the difference. I would say it's the difference between like a broomstick and a twig, or maybe like a tree and a broomstick. You know, there's like so much vastness there compared to a smaller amount of something. You know, some people, I don't think they can really handle that. I don't think they can handle the thought of it either. You know, I don't know, man. You know, but what I'm trying to say is there's way more to what we think of the world of cryptids. Like there's so much more that we just haven't found out yet. You know, we haven't found out, and I think I mean, I'm going to close soon, but what I'm going to say is, for many years now, I've been thinking of these things not in terms of like scattered incidents of some isolated creature that like came up out of some lab experiment or came up out of like some freakish incident in nature that is some isolated weird 1 in a million incidents. No, I'm talking about like civilizations of creatures, like, or that come from even maybe other parts of the like solar system, galaxy, interdimensional areas, and literally have whole civilizations that like we just can't even, we may not be able to reach actually. You know what I mean? But I don't know how, but they're interacting, and they're coming into this reality and stuff, and they're interacting with us. You know what I mean? They're breeding here, like they're breeding, they're living here, they're existing here, and there's so much to it that like some people you can't handle it. I know some people cannot handle. They can't handle this. They can't handle it. It's too much for some people. Some people would rather they're terrified. They would rather believe that like all of this is sci-fi, all of this is a trend. You know, none of this stuff really exists on the planet. I don't believe it because I don't see it yet. I get up, you know, I put the Easy Mac in the microwave. I hit the Pornhub up before I go to work. You know, I drive my car, I come home, and I watch sports, and then, you know, I pop a beer, and like, nah, bro. It's like, that's your existence because you only are in one place. That's because you're in one place, that's why. Because you're in one place, and you just haven't had an encounter, nor have you done research, nor have you met other people. And also your mind is just closed. Your mind is not open to the truth. Like your mind is closed off because you would rather believe that's all it is, you know what I mean? And it's laughable. When I think of it, like, it's incredibly laughable, like, but, you know, some people actually believe it, like, they think that all this is their existence, us human beings, friggin' Bill Gates, Elon Musk, politics, Pornhub, your wife and your kids, the dog, you know, the trap house, the streets. All of this human stuff is a tiny smidget of reality. Like, it's a little part of reality. So, this is your host, Steve, from the back, coming at you again with the thrusts all day and tomorrow. R.I.P. thrust, all up in your guts. Just nasty, haphazard, sloppy, weighty, haphazard, lazy, but debilitating thrusts all up in your guts. Once again, and I don't think I'm going to need to leave the email, because I'm tired of leaving my email on this thing for people to email their stories. So I'm just going to say it. I know I'm tired of typing it. I'm just going to say it. It's WaysLenny, no caps. It's just wayslenny@gmail.com. That's the email you can send your stories into. You can send different. I'll give you an example. You can send a few types of stories into this. You can send paranormal stories of any nature, which could be extraterrestrial type of related encounters, cryptid encounters, occult practice, type of experiences and encounters. It could be out-of-body experiences. It could be, how do I say this? It could be a scandalous sexual story, like, oh, I cheated on my man, blah, 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 I did this because he deserved it, yada, yada, so on and so forth. It could even be, a positive story, like, oh, I encountered this being, or encountered, this and that, or, it could even be, it could even be more raunchy than that. It could even be that you had an encounter, I have to say encounter with, wink, wink, and, quotation marks, that you had an encounter with one of these cryptids, or extraterrestrials, or spirits, or something, if you know what I mean. So, anything kind of in that kind of general bubble is funny, it's interesting. Like I said before, I am the nastiest man on YouTube. Whitney, Wisconsin ain't got nothing on me. This channel is about the fringe, the cringe, the kink, and the occult, the dark side of things, the cryptid side of things, the creepy crawly side of things. So, hey, like I said, send in your stories, send in your gutter stories. It could even be a story that you whooped some ass, somebody really deserved it, and you caught them, there was no surveillance, and you did a number on them, and they deserved it, or whatever, or whatever, your vengeance story, or your hooligan story, whatever you want to call it, man. That's what this channel, partly what this channel is about, because it is about fun, and, it can be clean fun, but, it can also be that type of fun, too. So, this is your host, Steve, from the back again. I really appreciate every like, every comment, every sub. I'm at 65 subscribers now, and I am incredibly happy that it has grown, even if it's just like 2 subs. Because I want this channel to be a real channel. I don't want, sometimes I watch people's channels, and no hate to other channels, but I'm thinking, like, you know what, if I have the right money, or get the right camera, the right mic, the right this, the right that, the footage, the right, how do I say this, partners to make footage, to make content, the right people, be able to go places, do things, I can make just as good of a channel as some of you other bastards out here with your damn channels. whether that's a cryptid channel, or if that's a recreational channel, or that's a whatever hobby or practice that you're doing channel, whatever, I can make entertaining shit too, motherfucker. So my whole thing is this, it just takes time. And I know that, like, these people that got these crazy channels, just like I seen this lady, no offense, I'm not trying to be mean, but she's kind of a very goofy looking lady. This lady she tries stuff, like, she tries the jumpy things that are kind of like skates, but you jump on them, the pogo stick things. She tries all this stuff and is doing all this stuff. Lady's damn channel is a monster. This lady's channel is huge. And rightfully so, because she put in the work to make that channel. People like her, that's good. If she doesn't like her, she seems like a real fun person though. She seems like a very, very fun, engaging person that's likes to try new things. You know what I mean? So I'm not knocking her. I'm just saying I actually believe that I could get just as much on a channel if I actually really can, people actually really are feeling anything that I'm even saying or doing on any of these, anything, you know what I mean? So I could just be playing myself, thinking, maybe, but I will say this, it takes subscribers, it takes people to make the channel. If no one is subbing, you ain't getting nothing. You ain't getting no K nothing. You be stuck at 70 subscribers, 65, 35 subscribers. You never. So it's everything is appreciated on this channel. And this channel is tiny, so it feels like, me and a couple of viewers. It doesn't, it's like, it's so small, but I want to change that, I hate the job that I go to. I have to work this crappy 9 to 4 stuff that I have to do. You're just like, God, I hate this crap. This is retarded. It's like caging. I feel like a wild caged animal working there. Like, what am I doing? Me being myself working in that environment, like, it doesn't even work for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I meet a lot of nice people there, and like some of the people I've met there, I would hope that they would be future friends for maybe if not a lifetime, a very long time. Like, I really like a lot of these people that I've met on the job, but it's just that the job itself, like I'm sure a lot of you people watching agree, like, that's not something I really want to do at all. I don't enjoy doing that. When I say that I want to go out to areas and investigate and explore and try to have an encounter, whether that's paranormal, cryptid, whatever it is, just exploring, hunting and camping, training out in the wilderness with people that have certain skills like myself and things like that. That's what I want to be doing, making content, even to the point to where I can actually make skits or whatever it is, make shorts, do things like that. These things are things that I envy content creators that are able to do these things, and even if they still maybe have to work a little job like I do and have a YouTube on the side, I want at least some type of real income, some type of income from this. Like, I do not like being a smidget or a little smear or a speck on YouTube. No one likes that. Because, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way either. What I'm saying is I understand the hard work that goes into it, and trust me, I really understand the hard work that goes into creating content and editing these things. But I also realize at a certain level, once you get to a certain point in your season to a certain degree, I realize how easy it actually is. And it makes me realize how, if it's that realistically easy and attainable, then why not me? Next to the other person, you know what I mean? Just saying. So, hey, this is your host, Steve Feedback, and I hope you enjoyed the rant, and have a nice day.